Oh, Caleb is gone.
Okay. All right. Well, for those of you that could join us, we're so glad that you are here. Shelly and myself and your mom are a part of a group of people that are looking to take healthy back in simple ways and doable ways and in the middle of community, which is always more fun when we're doing it together. So tonight we're just going to spend a little time educating ourselves and kind of where we find ourselves right now in the world, and then we'll go ahead and just talk about a simple solution that we found and hear a couple of stories. So let me see here. Sometimes this little, hold on. This did this to me last time too. Oh, there we go. All right, so right now there are two startling trends in our world today, and I could ask you to guess what they are, but you're all muted, so I'll just go ahead and tell you that the first one is that environmental toxins are on the rise. And this is things that we can see, right? And sometimes some things that we can't see. Most of it is stuff we cannot see. So it's in the air that we're breathing, it's in the water that we're drinking, it's in the food that we're eating, it's in the things that we're putting on our skin. And if we even go a little bit further, which is probably maybe not on everybody's radar, and this is no pun intended, but EMFs, which is electromagnetic fields, that is something that we do not see, but we are being exposed to more and more. And our bodies are under assault, really, in a way that they have never been before, and no generation prior to us as experienced. So we have those on the increase, and at the same time, we have our food quality decreasing. So this gentleman may remind you of a husband, it may rmind you of yourself, but he's perusing the center of the grocery store, which I really try to avoid because most of the products in the center of the grocery store, or a lot of them anyway, are what we would call food-like products. And so you're going to find a lot of things in them that are not actually food. So you see, down the sides, all the different things that probably are a part of that box that he's looking at. And I know a long time ago, when I first started kind of my health journey, I was told just a great rule of thumb is if you don't think your grandmother would have known what that food was, then you probably don't want to buy it. So really shopping the perimeter of the grocery store is the way to go, because that really is where most whole foods are. And then also just that shift from looking at just calories, maybe you focus on something on that nutrition label, but most important is the ingredient list. And so really trying to aim for 5 ingredients or less, and all of which that you could pronounce. So they're probably not going to have that many syllables. They're probably not going to end in the 8 sound. And I think you probably know what I'm talking about. So many of the products that we are consuming, I can't even pronounce. And that should be, that should be a little bit of an alarm bell going off in my mind that this is probably not great for my body, and my body probably doesn't recognize it or know what to do with it. So what's going on because of those two things is what Dr. David Katz has to say, which is this may be the first generation of children to have a shorter life expectation than their parents. And that is incredibly sad to me. I actually found out that our health outcomes in the US are 35th in the world. That is actually after Costa Rica, and puts us dead last as far as developing countries. So here we are with all of these medical advances and technology, and yet we are dead last as far as health outcomes go, and that includes infant mortality. That is crazy to me. And you see the listing of things that our children are dealing with, and I'm sure if you look around, you see these kids around you. They are sick, they are obese, they cannot pay attention, they are on drugs, they are on statins, for goodness sakes, at the age of 8. And so this is the sort of thing that is just scary, really. I mean, to think, like, who's going to be carrying on if kids are getting more and more sick? And unfortunately for adults, we're not really faring any better. This is Dr. Bill Sears here in the picture, who is America's pediatrician, just a wonderful doctor and a voice of reason and peace early on in my parenting journey. And he has a list for adults, and it's really quite scary. I don't know if any of you at this point in your life have been impacted by somebody with one of these diseases, but I know that I have. And what I also know is that when my mother was my age, and I'm 45, she didn't know one person with these things that was her age or younger. I've already lost 2 friends to disease early death to cancer. And that is crazy to me. I feel like a little bit of it is like we're the frogs that are in that, if you've heard the analogy of the frog that's in the boiling water, and he doesn't even realize it because it just got hotter and hotter until he died because he didn't realize what was happening. And that's a little bit of what we have going on here. But the reason that we are here tonight is because of this last statement that Dr. Sears says, that 75% of all chronic disease is preventable. And that is hope. So that is exciting, and that's where we're going to start. 75% of the things that we're dealing with here, and all of those things, can be considered chronic, and we can do things to prevent them. So this is where I'm going to launch into a little bit of teaching. So oxidative stress. I've heard that term thrown around. I'm sure you have, and maybe you know what it is and maybe you don't, but a real easy definition, it's the aging of our bodies, both inside and outside of our bodies. And so outside, we're going to look at this woman and kind of be able to see the aging process going on. She's got, wrinkles and things happening there to her skin. Her skin isn't as tight. Those are the things that are going on outside. At the same time, the inside of our body is aging as well. And this happens just by living and breathing. Oxidative stress is caused simply by waking up and going on with your day. Now, there are some things that activate it more in our lives, and those can be good and bad. I think I always thought it was, it must be bad things we were doing, like drinking and smoking and, maybe more negative connotations to health. But actually, there's good things that cause oxidative stress. So if you work out, and you might think you're doing your body good. There's so many ways to work out now with CrossFit and Orange Theory and you name it. But if you are not fueling your body well, then you are actually creating a ton of oxidative stress and free radicals in your body that are aging you more quickly than you would probably want. And so if you think to, if you look at this apple and you think to what will make that apple stop browning, I know when I was a girl and we had a fruit salad, my mom would always say, let's get lemon juice and put it on the apples because that will not, that'll allow them to not brown. And I never knew why that was. And it was only recently that I discovered it's because lemon juice is an antioxidant. And when you put that on the apple, it immediately stops it browning. And that's what happens in our own bodies when we have antioxidants enter our own bodies. They hook up with the free radicals and they neutralize them and allow them to not do damage anymore. And where do we find antioxidants? We find them in produce, in plants, and fruits and vegetables and berries. That's their only place to find them. Unfortunately, though, today in the grocery store and where you're buying your produce, our produce is packing a much less nutritional punch. And the reason for this is multiple reasons. Twofold tonight I will talk about. The first one is soil depletion, which is very real. I just watched a documentary on it and I don't have time to go into it, but there is just, the soil has been depleted, and because it is not nourishing our plants, then our plants are not nourishing us, right? We are connected. It's all interconnected, and we don't take care of the earth, that is passed on to us. So soil depletion, number one. And number two is because of the way that we are mass producing them. We are taking them from far away. We are picking them before they are ripe, and we are shipping them to, far locations. And so I'm sure you're all familiar. You go to the grocery store, right? And what do you see but green bananas and hard as rock peaches right now in the store? There'll be hard peaches. There's hard avocados. You name it. We hardly ever have ripe produce in our grocery stores. And what I didn't realize, and I think if there's one thing I want you to take away tonight, it's this. It's that we are no longer eating a majority of vine ripened fruit and vegetables. And we used to. Years ago, people grew their own food, or they ate from local stores, local farmers. That's not happening anymore. 90% of our nutrition, 90% of the plant's nutrition goes into the plant in the last 24 to 48 hours when it's ripening on the vine. So when I used to think, well, it's okay because I'll just, it's maybe annoying, but I'll just put the peaches in the bag and they'll ripen with time. But the reality is they never have the nutrition that they were meant to have. And I think that this next slide really shows that very, very easily. You look at 1953, the National Institute of Health did a study comparing spinach in 1953 to 1997, which is over 20 years ago. And even then, you would have to eat 53 bowls of spinach to equal the 1 bowl in 1953 for iron content. And that's just one of the many, many phytonutrients we find in plants. So I think this slide alone shows why we're in the space that we are. So back then, they're figuring out, boy, there is a gap. Even back in the 50s and 60s, they were seeing, and they thought, well, maybe we can figure out what is important in plants, and we'll create them. And that's what they did with the vitamins and the minerals. And I'm sure you've heard of your 12 essential vitamins and minerals. And you would probably agree with me that even though people have been taking them and it's a multi-billion-dollar business, nobody is getting healthier. The statistics don't lie. And here's the reason: because our bodies don't know what to do with those vitamins. They're isolated, they're synthetic, they are made in a factory, and our body can't process them, not easily. And if anybody has taken certain vitamins, they will notice that their urine changes color, and that is the body's way of excreting that right out of the body, because the body doesn't know what to do, and it's actually toxic. And so the difference there between the vitamins and then the apple that you see is that that apple has over 20,000 phytonutrients in it, okay? So we look at the 12 to 15, essential vitamins and minerals, and that's like, we compare it to Galileo when he first looked at the stars and thought maybe there were about 300. We are just skimming the surface of understanding how much is put into whole food and why our bodies are made to run on that and not on vitamins. And so a great example of this is lycopene, which in the past decade has gotten a lot of exposure as being preventative with prostate cancer for men. Everybody's super excited about that. But when they isolated lycopene in the tomato, which is where it is, and they put it up against the cancer in the petri dish, it did absolutely nothing. So isolated lycopene does nothing, but inside the tomato, with all of these other things working synergistically, lycopene does fight cancer. And so all day long, I would tell you, enjoy tomatoes raw and cooked, and make, spaghetti sauce or whatever, and eat your tomatoes. But isolating isn't going to do any different, not going to do any good. So we have made the case, right, that fruits and vegetables matter. In fact, now there's telling us 7 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables. And you guys, that's if you are just regular old Joe. But if you are pregnant, if you are nursing, if you are working out, or if you are fighting a disease, 16 to 20 is what they like you to have. So preparing 16 to 20, buying, preparing, and eating 16 to 20 servings of fruits and vegetables is near impossible. I think even 7 to 13 is near impossible. And we probably over exaggerate what we do eat, because many times we don't eat quite what we think, and we eat the same things over and over. We're creatures of habit, right? And so enter in this amazing array of beauty. I mean, your eye just is drawn to that. It's beautiful, and it just covers the whole palette of colors. And with that, all of the different phytonutrients that God has put in these plants, which is amazing. And it is just that, it's just food. And so about 25 years ago, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Smokey Santillo was, back then, it wasn't as mainstream as it is now, but he was helping cancer patients to heal using juice. He was juicing. And he actually ended up with his dad very, very sick with lymphoma. He was given 3 weeks to live. He had already had his spleen removed, and Dr. Smokey checked him out of the hospital, and he took him to his office, and he started pumping him full of juice. And at that point, he was so sick, he was really having a hard time even getting anything into his body. Wasn't going well, and he thought, what can I do to make this more powerful? And so here's kind of the secret way that he did this, is he put in all the pits, all the peels, all the seeds and the rinds and the leaves when he could, and he made just kind of a super juice, if you will. And his dad started getting better. And he actually ended up with an amazing quality of life, built a house, built a kitchen, and lived for, I think, 6 more years after that, which was amazing. He was, knocking on death's door. And so Dr. Santillo brought this to Jay Martin, who is the head of, at that point, the Juice Plus company was called something else, and introduced the product. And it's been on the market for over 25 years. It is just an amazing solution. And I want to share briefly with you just the 3 things that set it apart. So the first thing is that it has a food label on the back, and this is huge. So if you can see, that there, that says nutrition label, okay? Nutrition facts. Every other supplement in your cupboard, and you can go check this when we're done, it's going to say supplement, which means it is not food. Doesn't matter if it says it's a whole food vitamin, if it still says supplement, then somewhere along the line, it doesn't meet food regulations. Juice Plus is actually regulated by the FDA because we are food. And so that's a hard thing to have. I mean, you can't have food label if you're not really food. So that makes us different. It truly is just ground up fruits, veggies, and berries, dehydrated, and then you have just these plant powders. So we have all of those phytonutrients that you saw on that slide, non-GMO, dairy-free, and gluten-free. So that alone puts us in a unique space in this market. Second is we are NSF certified. And another thing to go and look at your supplements, see if they have any certification on them. There's been a lot of talk lately of the FDA trying to get involved more with supplements because they're not regulated, and more is coming out that there are toxins, lead, fungus, all of this in there, and there's nobody regulating it. Juice Plus is only one of only 1% of companies that has this NSF certification. They test at every single level, and it just gives you the peace of mind that what's in there is in there, and what you don't want in there is not. So no fungicides or herbicides or toxins or pesticides. And I would share with you, you may or may not know this, that organic does not mean that they are not spraying. So for me, I'm looking for beyond organic. Organic is not good enough. I mean, it still has a level of poison on it, a little less, but still toxins on our produce. And then finally, the thing that sets us apart is there is over 38 clinical published studies of research. And so this is a big deal. Honestly, before Juice Plus, I would just get on Amazon and like figure out, what was Amazon's choice. And then I'd read some of the reviews, and, Gary in Virginia was saying it worked for him. So I go ahead and choose that. But when I saw there's actually a product out there with real research on people, human beings with blood drawn, just gold standard research, I thought, okay, I've got to look a little more closely at this. So this is not research done in a Juice Plus lab. This is research done at universities around the world. Whether you can read those or not, some of the names on there, MD Anderson, Yale University, Georgetown, just really wonderful research universities. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and just share one of my favorites, which was done at the University of Maryland. It was a brainchild of 3 cardiologists who knew that most heart attacks and strokes are happening after high-fat meals, okay? 6 to 8 hours after high-fat meal. So they took a group of people, they took them to a fast food restaurant and fed them a high-fat meal. And then they took them and measured their brachial arterial constriction after that to see how hard the body was working to process that high-fat meal. You can see in that day 1, there's 3 different columns. At that point, nobody was separated out. So everybody, all 3 groups had about 50% constriction. The body was working 50% harder at that point. Then they went ahead and divided them into 3 groups, a placebo group taking just nothing, and then a group that was taking our fruits and veggies, and then a final group that was taking fruits, veggies, and berries. 28 days went by. They did nothing else but take Juice Plus. They did not change their exercise. They did not change what they were eating. They just went about their normal business. They came back, did the very same thing. And you see the second group had 68% less constriction just by eating Juice Plus, fruits and vegetables every day, by adding that in, which is amazing. And that's incredible. But then you go to people that had the berries added in, and their constriction was basically nil. They had 98% less constriction, or basically no constriction at all. And why I love this study is because we hear all day long about don't do this and don't do that, but look at what happens with our bodies when we just give it what it needs, when we fuel it with good things. It can offset the bad that we are up against, right? All the toxins that I talked to you about. Did you guys know that the only way for toxins to get out of your body is to hitch a ride on antioxidants? But if we don't have those in our body, the toxins cannot get out. We cannot detox. So taking Juice Plus is like a gentle detox every single day for our body, and our liver is thanking us. So we also have our shakes, which I love. I have one a day. I'd love to have two, but I never find time to make a second one. But I have at least one a day. And I turn them into puddings, and they are amazing. I turn them little pudding bowls. But they are perfect for if you're dealing with diabetics. This is a great solution for them. They're low glycemic, vegan and non-GMO, gluten and dairy free. They're plant-based protein, another 15 plants. Again, this is not a supplement. It is not a protein shake. It's a food. So I love that. And then it has powerful prebiotic fibers called oligosaccharides that actually help heal your gut and help the good guys want to stay. So here's another little tidbit for you. We've heard all kinds of things about taking probiotics, but here's the reality. People forever and ever did not take probiotics. Actually, there are more probiotics in your fruit and vegetables. So if we just eat a diet rich in fruit and vegetables, they have the prebiotic fiber that causes the good guys to want to stay. So if you are eating a healthy diet, you don't need to take a probiotic. Our food, let food be thy medicine. Food truly can heal your gut. And then our last product, which I love about Juice Plus, what they do really well. They have a super small product line. And the last thing we released almost 2 years ago is our plant-based omegas. And why this matters to you is because fish are toxic, because our oceans are toxic. And so Juice Plus said, how can we get around this? I mean, here's the reality. Fish don't have omegas. No animal has omegas. They get them from plants. All of our omegas that we need, that we cannot make ourselves, we have to get them from food, come from plants, not animals. And so Juice Plus took the fish out of the equation. They went right to the algae, and they said, we're going to do a wide spectrum because you know what? God made all of them. So omegas 3 and 6 and 5 and 7 and 9. So it's a wide spectrum omega. It is awesome for joint pain and heart health and eye health and hair and nails. I have never had to clip my nails so often as I have in the last year and a half. It's almost annoying how quickly they are growing. So I love our omegas, and I know a lot of people who have dealt with brain fog and just anxiety have really seen a change with taking the omegas. So I do think for sure critical to health. Another study that has recently come out too, actually, the American Pediatric Association has recommended going to omegas for children first before Ritalin, which I love. I think that's awesome that before we're going to put them on a drug, let's see if we can supplement with nutrition. That's a big win for the APA. And secondly, there has been a study recently that was released about postpartum depression in moms, and that is being linked to a depletion of our omegas because the baby will take our omegas. I am a mom of 8. I have nursed pretty much nonstop for the last, I don't even know, I've lost track many years. And when we are depleted, I mean, it takes years. It can take up to 10 years to replenish our stores. So it's super important if you are pregnant or nursing to be supplementing with omegas. And finally, the best part is how affordable it is. It truly is. I think I look at what we spend money on every day, the bad habits, right, that we have, and maybe Starbucks is one of yours, but super affordable. Juice Plus is something that is a good habit you can put money towards that is actually going to help you, and kids are free, which I love. And so you can talk to your mom about how that works, or maybe she's already told you, but that's how I got started with Juice Plus, because it was free for my child, and that's who I was really interested in at the time because I didn't know what it was. And so at this time, I want to end with this quote from Dr. Richard DuBois, who's head of infectious medicine in Atlanta, Georgia. He was one of the first doctors of now thousands of doctors that partner with the Juice Plus company. And he said this: there is nothing available anywhere else in the world with or without prescription that is proven to do in the body what Juice Plus does. So thank you so much for listening. And at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to ask Betty if you can unmute yourself. And I would just love for you to share why your Juice Plus story, what you've experienced so far. Do you need me to unmute you? I'm going to unmute you. You're all set.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I have to recognize that Scotty has joined us. Hi, Scotty. Our new granddaughter. Oh, I know. Well, let's see. I need to back up a little bit before I tell you my really good news I got recently. I began to be really interested in natural health solutions about 15 years ago when Caleb came home. He was 18 at the time, and he came home with a prescription for Prilosec. He had acid reflux. So there was no way that I was going to let him take a pharmaceutical at age 18. And so I got on the computer and I started to look for natural remedies. And I was so surprised at what I found. He was able to change some his lifestyle habits, and his acid reflux went right away. So at that point, I kept on looking, because there were other family members and friends who were dealing with health issues. And I thought, wow, what else could be out there that would help people without taking drugs? So that kind of began my reading and searching for different, I just became very interested in finding out how to do things naturally. So fast forward then to last November, my husband and I were packing to go to San Francisco to be there for the birth of Scotty, who's right there, last November. And as I was packing, I was filling 28 little bags with about 25 supplements and vitamins that I had found with all of my reading over the years. I thought my husband and I should take in order to stay healthy. So suddenly it occurred to me that there had to be a better way than taking all of these mini capsules. And so I really did pray about it. I asked God to show me what I was doing wrong, and I sincerely wanted to know how to do things differently. So I kind of left it at that. Interestingly, while we were in San Francisco, I had the worst cold I've had in years, and that was while I was taking all those 25 vitamins every day. But anyway, so about a month later, Shelly called me, and Shelly's here too, and she was telling me that I expected her to say she wasn't feeling good because she hadn't felt good for so long. And she said she was feeling great. And I said, Shelly, why? And she told me about Juice Plus. And so I soon learned that Juice Plus could take the place of all those supplements and probably all the others that we weren't taking too. I've learned recently there are tens of thousands of supplements on the market. And how do we know which ones we need? It's just impossible. So I learned that Juice Plus can cover all of those needs at the cellular level, even things we don't even know that we need. So my husband and I have been taking Juice Plus now for about 8 months. And my husband loves it because it's a lot cheaper, for one thing. And he likes taking fewer capsules. And I've heard him tell people about it, which is kind of funny because he never bragged about any of those other things I had been giving him before. So it's kind of funny. And then recently, I got some really good test results, which I wanted to share tonight. A few years ago, I was told I had hypothyroidism, which is an underactive thyroid. And the doctor was unable to tell me why. I just wanted to know why I had it. I'm generally a healthy person. And I thought, well, why is my thyroid low? And they couldn't give me any answers. So I was going to the chiropractor at the time, and I asked him if maybe he could tell me if chiropractic might help my thyroid. And he goes, oh, no. He said, a lot of people around this area, especially the Chicago area, have low thyroid because of all the pollution that drifts down from Chicago. And he said, there's really nothing you can do about it. So I left there that day feeling really discouraged. I thought, oh no, I've got this low thyroid and there's nothing I can do. Well, then shortly after that, I watched the video from Juice Plus, which was called Living in a Toxic World. And I'm kind of going to repeat you here, Julie. It talked about how the toxins in our environment and our food and all around us are creating these free radicals in our bodies that are causing the endocrine system, which is, of course, is the thyroid gland is part of that system, to be affected. So, and the only way to counteract that, of course, is with the antioxidants. So that was in about January, or maybe it was December when I saw that video. So I asked my doctor if I could go off the thyroid medication to see if my thyroid had improved at all. She goes, well, she said, I guess you could go off it for a couple of months. So that would have been February, the end of February. But I decided to cheat and to take a little longer because I knew that Juice Plus, being food, would take longer to show evidence of any improvement. So I waited until July, just last month, to get my blood tested. And then she called me a day later and she said, your thyroid is fine. It's normal. You don't need to be on the medication anymore. So to me, that was great. I just didn't want to take pharmaceuticals if I can avoid them. And I think that's probably my goal in all of this is just to, my husband and I get older, I just want to know that I'm doing what I can or to take care of ourselves. I know, we don't have power over everything, but I just wanted to know that I was doing all that I could to preserve our health, for as long as we can. And to do that in such a simple, thorough, and inexpensive way has just been great for us. So.
Well, thank you, Betty. I love that. How wonderful for you to have an answer, right? When you didn't have any, and to just the power of nutrition, the power of food. What a great story. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, Shelly, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. And if you want to I'm unmuting you, although it's not letting me unmute you.
There we go.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I'll summarize quickly. I don't want to keep you guys on much longer. I've had an ongoing interest and have researched nutrition and wellness for many years. My daughter and I and Betty, we always shared things that we learned. But at age 40, my health took a nosedive, and I mean a nosedive. I went to countless doctors, I've told Julie before, high-end supplements. I've tried so many supplements and to no avail. I never felt different, no matter what I took. I was so frustrated because I couldn't get any answers. And then one time I went to a doctor, and I was both shocked and angry. He told me I had fibromyalgia, and he wanted to treat me for depression. Now, people that know me, I am probably one of the most positive, a most positive person. So anyway, that really frustrated me. And then I got an epiphany. I said, I knew that I was not going to get better with drugs. They're a symptom treater or a Band-Aid on the problem, however. And so I knew that wasn't my answer. I didn't have the answer yet, but I knew that wasn't it. So fast forward many years, and about a couple of years ago, I met Julie, my neighbor and dear friend. Instantly, hold on, I gotta turn my thing off here. Instantly, I knew we were like-minded on health and nutrition, both the negative and the positive effects on our body, what we put on our body, what we eat, the whole bit. And she told me about Juice Plus, about more than organic, raw fruits, veggies, berries, it's bioavailable to the cells in your body. It sounded great. I really liked the sound of that, but I wasn't convinced to jump on board yet. So she just gently kept telling me about the product. I finally had that got it moment when they told me how the fruits, veggies, berries were grown, harvested, and prepared. That really cinched it for me, because you can have a wonderful product, a great product, but if they're not grown, harvested, and prepared in the right way, you've ruined your product. It's not good. So I've been on the trio, which is the fruit, veggies, and berries, for about a year and a half now. And I doubled the dose of omegas, and it's been about 6 months now. Now I'm in the over the 60 age group now, and my skin is so soft and so supple. I keep rubbing my arms and my legs because I can't believe it. I'm like, man, that feels like baby skin. So I'm really impressed with that. My hair is much softer. I don't use nearly as much conditioner. I certainly don't use it every time I wash my hair. And I certainly don't use as much body lotion either. So it truly bridges the gap for me, because I know for me, there was no way I was even coming close to consuming enough fruits, veggies, and berries, all that. So that's my story, and I'm just excited to see it get better and better as the months and years go by. I want to be around and be healthy for my precious grandbabies, Benjamin and Adeline. So Juice Plus plays a huge part of my health and wellness now. This is the product I've been looking for years of research. I finally found it. So even though it's later in life, I'm still very thankful for it. But you young people, you have such an advantage to start off. I wished I had known about this years ago. So anyway, that's my story.
Thank you, Shelly. I love your story. I love just the journey, right? And
Yes.
you know better and you do better. And that's what we're here to share with you. You know better and you do better. And I think, you know, I've got a similar wonderful story too with a child who was hospitalized with asthma many times. And instead of daily steroids, which was what our doctor wanted us to do, I just went out on a limb. I threw the steroids in the back cupboard and I went with daily fruits and vegetables in a capsule, and I've never looked back. It's been over 2 years since he's been hospitalized, and I couldn't believe what I didn't know. And I thought I knew a lot. I'm a lot like your mom in that I've done a ton of research. I've always loved health and nutrition, but I had not heard about Juice Plus. And I feel like I just am so excited to partner with this company who has a mission to help educate people, not to keep people sick, but to give people an easy solution to do something that can move your body into the direction of health. Because here's the reality, there's no neutral, okay? Every single day, we're either fueling our body for disease or we're fueling our body for health. And what column are you gonna reside in daily? Because the reality is some days we do better than others with what we eat, but with Juice Plus, we know that we are filling our pantry well every day. We're filling our pantry with what our body needs to do all those different jobs it has. So thank you guys so much for hopping on tonight. I know your mom appreciates it and just got to hear the whole message. So I'm gonna stop recording.